Taman wiped the sweat from his forehead as he worked inside the twisted metal hull of a dead cargo ship.
At!
The Lucky Break floated nearby, his home and workshop for the past 5 years. Out here in the outer rim, nobody asked questions about where salvage came from. They only cared if the parts worked. The silence of space felt comfortable to him. No bosses yelling orders, no corporate meetings about profit margins. It's just him, his tools, and the endless graveyard of ships that drifted. Through this forgotten corner of the galaxy, he pulled a valuable power core from the wreckage and smiled. This one piece would pay for food and fuel for 3 months. Life was simple when you knew what you wanted. The proximity alarm on his suit crackled to life. 3 red dots appeared on his scanner, moving fast toward his position. Taman cursed. Under his breath, pirates maybe, or worse, corporate security, looking for stolen goods. He started floating back toward the Lucky Break when a 4th appeared on his screen. This one was smaller and moving even faster than the others. It was heading straight for him. Tay-Min reached his ship and sealed the airlock just as the small craft screamed past his window. It was sleek and silver, designed for speed rather than cargo. Definitely not human technology. The 3 larger ships were gaining ground, firing bright energy beams that lit up the darkness. Not my problem, Taman muttered, starting up his engines. He had learned long ago that survival meant staying out of other people's fights. But the silver ship suddenly changed course. It spun around and aimed directly at the Lucky Break. Taman's eyes went wide as he realized what was happening.
I know.
No, no, he shouted, hitting every thruster control he could reach. The silver ship slammed into his cargo bay with a sound like thunder. Metal screamed against metal. Warning lights flashed red across his control panel. The impact threw Taman against his pilot's seat hard enough to knock the wind out of him. Emergency seals activated, keeping the atmosphere from escaping into space. But Taman could hear the hiss of air leaking somewhere. His life support systems were damaged. He grabbed his plasma cutter and emergency kit, then rushed toward the cargo bay. The silver ship had punched through his outer hull and now sat crumpled inside his storage area. Fuel and coolant leaked from both vessels, creating a toxic mess on the floor. A section of the silver ship opened with a soft hiss. Smoke poured out, followed by a figure in a damaged flight suit. Taman raised his plasma cutter, ready for anything. The figure stood up slowly and removed their helmet. Taman stared in surprise. It was a woman, but not human. Her skin looked like polished crystal, shifting between blue and silver in the emergency lighting. Her eyes were large and dark, filled with pain and determination. She spoke in a language he didn't recognize, her voice musical but urgent. When he didn't respond, she switched to broken Galactic standard. "Please," she said, holding up empty hands. "They hunt me. Need hide." Before Taman could answer, his communication system crackled to life. A cold voice filled the cargo bay. "Human vessel, we are Corvin Syndicate Security. You are harboring a dangerous criminal. Surrender her immediately or face destruction." 3 massive ships appeared outside his windows. Each one was 10 times larger than the Lucky Break. Bristling with weapons that could turn his salvage vessel into scrap metal in seconds. The crystal-skinned woman grabbed his arm. Her touch was surprisingly warm despite her appearance. "Please," she whispered, "they kill innocent. Make weapon that destroy worlds." Taman looked at his damaged ship, then at the woman, then at the Corvin vessels outside. His simple life had just become very complicated. "This is salvage operator Taman of the Lucky Break," he said into his communicator. "I'm running emergency. Repairs after a collision. No passengers aboard." Corvin commander's voice turned threatening. "We will scan your vessel. If we find the fugitive, you will be considered an enemy of the Syndicate." Taman quickly led the woman behind a stack of salvaged equipment. He pointed to a hidden compartment he used for storing valuable finds. "Get in there and don't make a sound," he whispered. She nodded and squeezed into the tight space. Taman closed the panel just as scanning beams swept through his ship. The energy made his teeth ache and his metal tools vibrate. After several long minutes, the Corvin commander spoke again. Scan complete. No life signs detected besides the human. But we know she came this direction. Maybe her ship broke apart. In the collision, Taman suggested. Debris field is pretty thick around here. There was a pause. Then the commander said, You will report any contact with Corvin fugitives immediately? Failure to comply carries a death sentence. 3. Ships moved away, but Taman noticed they left something behind. A small metal device attached to his hull. A tracking beacon. He waited until the Corvin ships disappeared before letting the woman out of hiding. She emerged looking grateful, but still frightened. Thank you, she said, her galactic standard improving as her translator device adjusted. I am Hannah. You saved my life. I'm Taman, and you just cost me a fortune in repairs, he replied, surveying the damage to his ship. My cargo bay is destroyed. Life support is failing. Navigation is offline. Hannah looked around at the wreckage of both ships. She reached into her flight suit and pulled out a small device that pulsed with inner light. It was about the size of his fist and made of the same crystal material as her skin. This is why they hunt me, she said quietly. It contains codes to stop terrible weapon that cracks planets open like eggs. Taman stared at the device. It was beautiful and somehow terrifying at the same time. He could feel energy radiating from it even at a distance. Corvin Syndicate plans to test weapon on inhabited worlds, Hannah continued. Billions will die unless codes reach Galactic Council. That's not my problem, Taman said, though his voice lacked conviction. I'm a salvage operator, not a hero. Hannah's crystal skin darkened with sadness. Then I find other way. But first I pay for damage to your ship. She reached into another pocket and pulled out a credit chip. Taman's scanner showed enough money to buy 3 ships like the Lucky Break. Where did you get this? He asked suspiciously. Corvin Syndicate paid me well before I learned truth about weapon, Hannah said. Now I use their money against them. Taman looked at the credit chip, then at his damaged ship, then at the tracking beacon outside. The smart thing would be to take the money, dump the woman at the nearest station, and disappear into the deep salvage zones. But something about her desperate courage reminded him of why he had left corporate space in the first place. Some fights were worth having even when the odds were impossible. The beacon they left will bring them back, he said finally. We need to move fast. Hannah's crystal skin brightened with hope. You will help? I'll get you to the nearest safe port, Taman said. After that, you're on your own. It was a lie, and somehow they both knew it. The moment he had chosen to hide her from the Corvin ships, his fate had become tied to hers. But neither of them was ready to admit that yet, as Taman started emergency. Repairs on the Lucky Break. He wondered what he had gotten himself into. All he had wanted was a quiet day of salvage work instead. He now had a refugee with a planet-killing secret, and some of the most dangerous criminals in the galaxy hunting. Then both, his simple life was definitely over. The Lucky Break limped through space like a wounded animal. Taman had managed to patch the life support systems, but the ship was running on backup power. Every system beeped warnings at him as he piloted toward his emergency hideout. Hannah sat in the co-pilot seat, studying the crystal device in her hands. Her translator had finally synced properly with Galactic Standard, and now she spoke much more clearly. The asteroid belt ahead, Taman said, pointing through the cracked viewport. There's an old mining station hidden in there. Can make proper repairs. How do you know it will be safe? Hannah asked. Because nobody else is crazy enough to navigate through that field, Taman replied. The asteroids shift constantly. One wrong move, and you become part of the debris, he guided. The ship between massive floating rocks, using skills learned from years of salvage work. Hannah watched in amazement as he threaded through gaps that seemed impossible for their damaged vessel. The mining station appeared ahead of them, built into the hollow core of a giant asteroid. Its lights were dark, but Taman knew the automated systems would still be working. I used to work here before I became a salvager, he explained as they docked. Company abandoned it when the ore ran out, but I kept the power running for emergencies. Inside the station, emergency lighting cast long shadows down empty corridors. Their footsteps echoed in the silence. Taman led Hannah to the main operations center, where he activated the life support systems. Now we can talk properly, he said, settling into a chair. Tell me exactly what that thing is. Hannah held up the crystal device. It pulsed brighter in the station's artificial atmosphere, as if responding to her presence. I was chief scientist for Corvan weapon development. She began. They told us we were creating mining equipment, tools to extract resources from dead planets. But it wasn't mining equipment, Taman guessed. No, it was a planetary core destabilizer. One shot can crack a planet's crust and make the whole world uninhabitable. They plan to use it on worlds where other species live, then claim the resources for themselves. Taman felt sick. He had seen corporate greed before, but this was genocide on an unimaginable scale. This device contains the only copy of the shutdown codes, Hannah continued. Without it, the weapon cannot be stopped once activated. I stole it when I learned the truth. Why didn't you just destroy it? He asked. Because the weapon is already built. Destroying the codes would make it impossible to shut down if someone else figures out how to fire it. The Galactic Council needs these codes to disable the weapon. Safely, before Taman could respond, alarms began blaring throughout the station. His security monitors showed 3 ships approaching through the asteroid field. Corvan hunter vessels, smaller and more maneuverable than the ships from before. The tracking beacon, Taman cursed. They followed us here. The lead hunter ship broadcasted a message. Surrender the fugitive, and we will make your death quick, human. Taman looked around the operations center. The station had some defensive systems, but nothing that could stop 3 military vessels. Then his eyes fell on the mining equipment. Controls. Hannah, can you use the station's computers to call for help? Yes, but it will take time to reach anyone. Then get started. I'll buy us that time. Taman ran through the corridors to the mining control room. The station's original purpose had been to break apart asteroids for processing. The equipment was old but still functional. The hunter ships were trying to dock when Taman activated the mining charges. Explosions rippled through the asteroid field, sending massive rocks spinning toward the attackers. The first ship managed to dodge, but the second wasn't fast enough. A house-sized chunk of rock smashed into its engines, sending it tumbling away into space. The remaining 2 ships opened fire on the station. Energy beams cut through the asteroid's outer shell, venting atmosphere into space. Taman sealed the damaged sections and activated the mining lasers. Using them as weapons, one hunter ship moved in close, trying to breach the station's hull. Taman waited until it was directly over the main mining shaft and activated the explosive charges used for extraction. The blast caught the ship in its cargo bay, tearing it apart. The last hunter ship pulled back, damaged but still functional. Its captain's voice crackled over the communication system. It's impressive, human, but you only delay the inevitable. More ships are coming? Then come and get us, Taman replied. But the hunter ship was already retreating, disappearing into the asteroid field. Taman knew it would return with reinforcements. He found Hannah in the communications room, tears streaming down her crystal face. I reached the Galactic Council, she said. But they cannot send help for 6 days. Too many ships are committed to other sectors. 6 days, Taman repeated. The Corvan Syndicate will have an entire fleet here by then. Hannah looked at him with her large, dark eyes. I am sorry I brought this danger to you, if you leave me. Here, they might let you go. Taman was quiet for a long moment, thought about his old life, working for corporations that treated people like disposable equipment. He remembered watching his family die because corporate executives decided their lives weren't worth the cost of proper safety equipment. I've been running from fights like this for years, he said finally. Maybe it's time to stop running. What do you mean? The Galactic Council is too slow, but there might be another way. I know people in the border territories, rebels, smugglers. Others who hate the Syndicate. If we can reach them, they might help us get to someone who can use those codes. Hannah's crystal skin brightened with hope. You would risk your life for strangers you will never meet. I would risk my life to stop monsters who destroy planets for profit, Taman corrected. There's a difference. They spent the next few hours preparing for the journey. Taman gathered supplies and weapons from the station's storage areas. Hannah studied star charts, looking for the safest route to the border worlds as they worked. Taman found himself watching her. Despite everything she had been through, she never complained or asked for special treatment. She worked as hard as he did, even though the station's gravity was different from what her species was used to. "My world," Hannah said during a rest. "Break," we have a saying. The crystal that survives the forge becomes the strongest. What does that mean? Valari crystals are formed under extreme pressure and heat. The process is painful, but it creates something beautiful and unbreakable. She looked at the device in her hands. "I think maybe people are like crystals. Hardship makes us stronger." Taman nodded. He had learned that lesson the hard way. When the lucky break was repaired enough for travel, they prepared to leave the mining station. Taman set the remaining mining charges on a timer. When the Corvin reinforcements arrived, they would find nothing but empty space and floating debris. As they flew away through the asteroid field, Hannah asked, "Where are we going?" "To see some old friends who don't like the Syndicate any more than we do," Taman replied. "But I warn you, they're not exactly law-abiding citizens." "Neither are we anymore," Hannah pointed out. Taman smiled. She was right. The moment he had chosen to help her, he had become a fugitive too. But for the first time in years, he felt like he was fighting for something that mattered. Behind them, the mining station exploded in a brilliant flash, taking with it any trace of their presence. Ahead lay the dangerous border worlds in an uncertain future, but they were no longer. Facing it alone, Kepler Station floated in the void like a massive steel flower, its docking arms reaching out to embrace ships from across the galaxy. It was neutral territory, where pirates and merchants, rebels and corporations could trade without asking to. Many questions about each other's business, Taman guided the lucky. Break toward a docking bay in the station's lower levels. The area was darker and less monitored than the main ports, perfect for people who valued privacy. "Remember," he told Hannah, as they prepared to disembark, "keep your hood up and let me do the talking. Valari are rare out here and someone might recognize you." Hannah pulled her cloak tighter around her crystal features. "How will we find the people you mentioned?" "We start with information," Taman said, "and information costs money." The station's market district buzzed with activity. Traders hawked everything from exotic spices to illegal weapons. The air smelled of fuel, cooking food, and unwashed bodies. Perfect cover for two fugitives trying to blend in. Taman led Hannah to a small shop tucked between a cantina and a parts dealer. The sign read Galactic News and Information Services. But everyone knew. It was really an intelligence broker's front. The shop owner was a thin man with mechanical implants covering half his face. He looked up as they entered, his cybernetic. "I worry as it focused on them." "Taman," the man said in a gravelly voice. "Haven't seen you in these parts for months? Still picking over dead ships? Hello, Dongwu? Need information about Corvin Syndicate activities. Specifically, their weapon development programs." Dongwu's expression became cautious. "That's dangerous information, friend. The kind that gets people disappeared." Taman placed a credit chip on the counter. Dongwu's, I scanned it and widened slightly at the amount. "For that much, you must be in serious trouble," Dongwu said, pocketing the chip. "What exactly do you want to know?" "Everything about a weapon that can destroy planets. Who's building it, where it's being tested, how..." To stop it, Dongwu was quiet for a moment, his fingers dancing over a hidden keyboard. Information scrolled across his cybernetic display. "Bad news," he said finally. "The Syndicate has been recruiting heavily in the past month. They're looking for ships, weapons, and mercenaries. Word is they're planning something big." "What kind?" "Of something big? Nobody knows for sure. But there are rumors about testing new weapons on uninhabited worlds. 3 planets in the Outer Rim have gone dark in the past week. No communication, no survivors." Hannah gripped Taman's arm tightly. Her translator device whispered the conversation to her in her native language. "There's more," Dongwu continued. "The Syndicate has put out the biggest bounty I've ever seen. 50 million credits for a Valari female, alive. Another 20 million for whoever's helping her." Taman felt the blood drain from his face. "How do they know someone's helping her?" "Because they found the remains of your mining station hideout. Very impressive work with those explosives, by the way. But they also found traces of human DNA in the wreckage." Before Taman could respond, His wrist communicator buzzed with an emergency alert. Corvin security forces had just docked at the station's main port. "Time to go," Taman said, grabbing Hannah's hand. But it was too late. As they turned toward the exit, 3 figures blocked their path. The leader was a human man with cold eyes and expensive cybernetic enhancements. Behind him stood 2 aliens, both heavily armed. "Taman," the man said with a familiar voice. "It's been a long time." Taman's blood turned to ice. "Wu-Jin, you remember me?" How touching. Wu-Jin smiled, but there was no warmth in it.
I
"Heard you were making new friends? Corporate types are very interested in meeting your companion." "She's just a passenger," Taman lied. "Really? Then she won't mind coming with us for questioning." Wu-Jin gestured to his companions, who raised their weapons. The market district suddenly became very quiet. Other traders backed away, not wanting to get involved in whatever was about to happen. Taman's hand moved toward the plasma cutter on his belt. "Walk away, Wu-Jin. This doesn't concern you." 70 million credits concerns me very much, Wu-Jin replied, "especially when it comes with a chance to settle old scores." "What old scores?" Hannah whispered. "Wu-Jin and I served together in the Earth military," Taman explained, never taking his eyes off his former comrade. "Until he sold our unit's position to corporate raiders for money. That was business," Wu-Jin said, just like this. And the tension stretched between them like a wire about to snap. Then everything exploded into motion. Taman dove to the side, pulling Hannah with him as energy bolts scorched the air where they had been standing. He overturned a merchant's table, creating cover as more shots rang out. The service tunnel behind. "Dongwu shop!" he shouted to Hannah. Gohana ran toward the back of the store while Taman provided covering fire with his plasma cutter. The weapon wasn't designed for combat, but it could cut through metal and flesh just as easily. One of Wu-Jin's alien companions tried to flank them. Taman grabbed a container of reactive chemicals from a nearby stall and threw it at the alien's feet. The container exploded on impact, sending the alien flying backward into a wall. "Still the same old Taman," Wu-Jin called out. "Always fighting dirty." "I fight to win," Taman replied. Retreating toward the service tunnel, he found Hannah waiting. In the narrow maintenance passage, her crystal skin was pulsing with fear, but her eyes were determined. "This way," Taman said, leading her through the maze of service tunnels that connected different sections of the station. Behind them, they could hear Wu-Jin coordinating with station security. The hunters would be searching every level soon. "Need to get back to the ship," Taman said. "They'll be watching the docking bays," Hannah pointed out. "Not all of them." Taman led her through the station's waste processing level, a place most people avoided because of the smell and noise. But it also connected to the lower docking bays through maintenance shafts, as they climbed through the narrow passages. Hannah asked, "Why did your friend betray you?" "Wu-Jin was never my friend," Taman said. "He was my squad leader, and I trusted him. When corporate raiders attacked our position, 12 good soldiers died because he gave them our coordinates. In exchange for money. How did you survive? I was on patrol when the attack happened. By the time I got back, everyone was dead except Wu-Jin. He had a story about barely escaping, but I found the communication records later. They reached the docking bay level and peered through a ventilation grate. A lucky break sat in its berth, but 3 armed guards were watching it. "Can we fight our way through?" Hannah asked. "Like 3 against 2, with military-grade weapons?" Taman shook his head. "We need a distraction." He looked around the maintenance area and found what he was looking for. The station's waste disposal system used compressed gas to launch garbage into space. With a few modifications, it could launch other things too. "When I tell you to run, head straight for the ship," Taman said, working on the disposal controls. "Don't look back. Don't wait for me. I'm not leaving you behind," Hannah said firmly. "You have to. Those codes are more important than either of us." Before Hannah could argue, Taman activated the modified disposal system. Launched a series of maintenance drones at high speed. The drones scattered across the docking bay, their emergency lights flashing and alarms wailing. The guards turned toward the chaos, trying to figure out what was happening. In that moment of confusion, Taman and Hannah ran for their ship. They almost made it. But as they reached the Lucky Breaks ramp, Energy bolts began hitting the ground around them. Woojin and his team had found them. Tae Dashmin pushed Hannah up the ramp and toward the pilot's seat. "Get us out of here." But as Hannah reached for the controls, her legs buckled. Blood seeped through her cloak where an energy bolt had grazed her side. "I can't," she gasped. "The controls are too different from Valari ships." Taemin caught her before she fell. The wound wasn't fatal, but it was serious enough to weaken her. Outside, he could hear Woojin's team approaching. "Hold on," he told Hannah, carrying her to the co-pilot's seat. "We're getting out of here." The Lucky Break's engines roared to life, just as the first boarding party reached the ramp. Tommen slammed the door controls and lifted off, the ship scraping against the docking bay walls in his haste to escape. As they flew away from Kepler Station, Taemin used the medical supplies to treat Hannah's wound. Her crystal skin was warm to the touch, and he could feel her pulse racing with pain and adrenaline. "Why didn't you leave me?" she asked weakly. "Because leaving people behind is what they do," Taemin said, thinking of Woojin and the corporate raiders. "It's not what I do." Hannah looked at him with gratitude and something else he couldn't quite identify. Trust, maybe, or the beginning of something deeper. "Where do we go now?" she asked. Tae-Min checked their fuel levels and the star charts. "To find people who hate the Syndicate as much as we do. But first, we need to lose Woojin and his Void Reapers." "Void Reapers? It's the most dangerous mercenary unit in the galaxy. And now they're hunting us." As if summoned by his words, the proximity alarm began beeping. 3 ships had appeared on their scanner, moving fast and closing the distance. The chase was far from over. The border worlds stretched out before them like scattered jewels against the darkness of space. These were the forgotten territories, too far from the galactic core for proper law enforcement, too dangerous for most corporations to risk there. Investments, perfect for people who needed to disappear. Tae-Min piloted the Lucky, break through the gravitational maze of a triple star system, using the complex orbital mechanics to mask their trail from the Void Reapers. Beside him, Hannah watched the navigation displays with growing fascination. "Your species has remarkable spatial reasoning," she observed. "Most beings need computer assistance to navigate fields like this." "Humans are good at improvising," Taemin replied, adjusting course to avoid a debris field. "We had to be, to survive on a world that kept trying to kill us." Hannah's crystal skin shifted to a darker blue, a sign of thoughtfulness he was learning to recognize. "Tell me about Earth. What was it like before humans reached the stars?" Taemin was quiet for a moment, memories of a world he would never see again flooding back. Dangerous, beautiful, full of life that competed with us for every resource. "We learned to adapt or die." "Is that why other species fear humans in combat?" "Partly. And we don't just fight to win. We fight like the universe is trying to kill us, because for most of our history, it was." Their destination appeared ahead of them. Sanctuary Station, built inside a hollowed-out asteroid in the shadow of a dead planet. It was a haven for smugglers, rebels, and anyone else who needed to stay hidden from corporate authority. As they approached the docking bay, Taemin felt tension building in his shoulders. He was about to ask for help from someone who had good reason to hate him. "There's something I need to tell you," he said to Hannah. "The man we're meeting, Junho, used to be my business partner. We had a falling out 5 years ago." "What kind?" "A falling out. The kind where he tried to sell me to corporate security for bounty money." Hannah's skin flashed bright silver with alarm. "You think he will help us now?" "He owes me a debt, whether he'll admit it or not." The docking bay was dimly lit and smelled of engine fuel and recycled air. Taemin led Hannah through the stations, narrow corridors, past gambling halls and black market shops where anything could be bought for the right price. They found Junho in a cantina called The Last Stop. Drinking alone at a corner table, he looked older than Taemin remembered, with new scars on his face and cybernetic replacements for 2 of his fingers. "Well, well," Junho said as they approached, taming the salvage king. "I heard you were dead." "Not yet," Taemin replied, sliding into the booth across from his former partner, though some people are trying to change that. Junho's eyes moved to Hannah, taking in her concealed features and the way she carried herself. And this is the Valari with the 70 million credit bounty on her head? You've heard about that? Everyone's heard about it. The Corvin Syndicate is recruiting every gun for hire in 3 sectors. Junho leaned back in his seat. So what do you want from me? Safe passage to the inner worlds. And information about Syndicate weapon testing. That's a big ask, considering our history. Our history is exactly why you're going to help, Taman said. You still owe me for Rigel Station, Junho's expression darkened. I saved your life at Rigel Station. After you put it in danger in the first place? If you hadn't tried to double-cross those arms dealers, we never would have been in that firefight. And if I hadn't covered your retreat, you'd be floating in space right now. Hannah watched the exchange with growing understanding. These two men had a complicated relationship, built on years of partnership, betrayal, and reluctant respect. Enough, she said quietly. We're wasting time arguing about the past when the future is at stake. Both men looked at her in surprise. She pushed back her hood, revealing her crystal features in the cantina's dim light. I am Hannah of the Valari Crystal Clans. The device I carry contains the codes to stop a weapon that will destroy inhabited worlds. Billions of innocent lives depend on getting these codes to someone who can use them. She placed the pulsing crystal device on the table between them. Even in the cantina's poor lighting, it seemed to glow with inner fire. The Corvin Syndicate has already begun testing. 3 worlds have been sterilized in the past week. If we don't act soon, the genocide will spread across the galaxy. Junho stared at the device, his expression shifting from skepticism to horror as he realized what he was looking at. A planetary core destabilizer, he whispered. I heard rumors, but I thought they were just corporate propaganda, the rumors. Are true, Hannah said. I helped design it before I learned what it would really be used, for Junho was quiet for a long moment, wrestling with a decision. Finally, he looked up at Timon. There's a Galactic Council research station 3 systems from here. They have the equipment to analyze your codes and distribute them to every naval fleet in the galaxy. Can you get us there? Taman asked. Directly, the Void Reapers are watching all the main routes. But I know a back way through the Shattered Belt. It's dangerous, but it should be clear of Syndicate patrols. Before Timon could respond, the cantina's lights flickered and went out. Emergency lighting kicked in a moment later, bathing everything in red. Attention citizens of Sanctuary Station, a voice announced over the communication system. This is Wujin of the Void Reapers. We are conducting a lawful search for Syndicate fugitives. Cooperation will be rewarded. Resistance will be punished. The 3 of them looked at each other in the red light. They had been found again. Back exit, Junho said, standing up. My ship is docked on the far side of the station. They moved quickly through the darkened corridors as armed figures swept through the station behind them. But as they reached the docking area, energy bolts began hitting the walls around them. There, shouted a voice. The fugitives. Void Reaper. Soldiers poured into the corridor, their weapons blazing. Taman pushed Hannah behind a storage container and returned fire with his plasma cutter. This way? Junho called, leading them toward his ship. But more soldiers appeared ahead of them, cutting off their escape route. They were trapped in a crossfire with nowhere to run. That's when Hannah did something that shocked both humans. She stepped. Out of cover, her crystal skin beginning to glow brighter and brighter. Energy bolts struck her body, but instead of burning through her flesh, they were absorbed and redirected. Hannah, get back, Taman shouted, but she ignored him, focusing all her will on channeling the energy coursing through her crystalline structure. With a sound like breaking glass, she released it all at once. A wave of pure energy erupted from her body, overloading the soldiers' weapons and sending them flying backward, the corridor filled with the smell of burned electronics and ozone. Hannah collapsed to her knees, her skin now dim and cracked in several places. Taman caught her before she hit the ground. Why did you do that? He demanded. You could have been killed, because you would have done the same for me, she whispered. Her voice weak but determined. Junho stared at them both, something shifting in his expression. Come on. We need to move before more of them arrive.
Oh.
They carried Hannah to his ship, a modified cargo hauler called the Second Chance. As the engines powered up, Taman held Hannah in the passenger compartment. Checking her injuries, the crystal cracks in her skin were slowly healing, but the process looked painful. Natural. Luminescence flickered like a dying flame. Energy absorption is a Valari survival trait, she explained weakly. But using it like that is dangerous. It could have killed me. Then why take the risk? 'Cause I trust you to keep fighting even if I fall. And I wanted to give you that same trust in return. Kamen felt something shift inside his chest. Warmth that had nothing to do with the ship's life support systems. He had spent 5 years avoiding emotional connections, telling himself that isolation was safer. But watching Hannah risk her life to protect him had shattered those defenses completely. Rest. Now, he said softly, brushing a strand of crystalline hair from her forehead. We'll reach the research station soon. As the Second Chance accelerated away from Sanctuary Station, Junho joined them in the passenger area. The shattered belt passage will take 2 days, he reported. But we should be clear of Void Reaper patrols. He looked at Hannah, who was now sleeping fitfully against Taman's shoulder. She's not what I expected, Junho admitted. Most aliens I've met are either trying to exploit humans or afraid of us. She's different. She sees us as we could be, not as we are, Taman replied. Maybe that's what makes her worth protecting. Junho nodded slowly. Maybe it's what makes us all worth protecting. For the first time in years, the two former partners sat in comfortable silence, united by a purpose greater than their past grievances. Outside the viewports, the shattered belt stretched endlessly before them. It's broken. Asteroids creating a maze that would hide them from their enemies. But Taman knew the real danger wasn't behind them. It was ahead, waiting at the research station, where they would have to trust strangers with the codes that could save or doom entire worlds. And somewhere in the darkness, Ujin and his Void Reapers were still hunting them, driven by greed and old grudges that wouldn't die easily. The bond between Taman and Hannah had been forged in the fire of combat and sacrifice. Now it would be tested by the challenges still to come. The Galactic Council research station hung in space like a broken promise. What should have been their salvation was now a twisted wreck of metal and burning atmosphere. Its communication arrays dark and its docking bays sealed with emergency blast doors. We're too late, Junho said grimly as the Second Chance drifted past the destroyed station. The Void Reapers got here first. Taman studied the damage through the viewports. The attack had been surgical precise, not the work of pirates or raiders, but of professionals who knew exactly what they were targeting. They destroyed the quantum communication array, he observed. Without that, the station can't transmit the shutdown codes to the fleet. Hannah sat beside him, her crystal skin still bearing faint cracks from her energy discharge days earlier. She had grown stronger during their journey through the shattered belt. But Taman could see the weight of failure in her posture. How many more stations like this are there? She asked quietly. 3 others, Junho replied. But if Wu Jin found this one, he'll find them too. The Syndicate has resources we can't match. Then we take the fight to them, Taman said, surprising both his companions. What do you mean? The weapon has to be somewhere. If we can't send the codes to the fleet, we'll deliver them directly to the source. Hannah's skin flickered with hope and fear. The Syndicate's primary facility is in the Nexus sector. It's the most heavily defended system in their territory. How heavily defended? 50 battleships, orbital defense platforms, and a space station the size of a small moon, Junho said. It would take the entire Galactic Navy to crack that. Defense. Then we don't fight our way through, Taman replied. We go in quietly. He turned to Hannah, his expression serious. You worked for them. You know their security protocols, their blind spots. Is there a way inside? Hannah was quiet for a moment, accessing memories she had tried to forget. There is a way. The facility has a maintenance port for waste disposal and supply shipments. Security is lighter there because nothing valuable goes through it. Good. We get close enough in a cargo hauler? Maybe. But even if we reach the weapon, how do we input the shutdown codes? The system requires biometric confirmation from multiple Syndicate officials. Taman smiled grimly. Leave that to me. Humans are good at improvising. They spent the next several hours planning their approach. Junho's ship could be disguised as a waste disposal vessel, but they would need identification codes and shipping manifests to pass security inspection. Still have contacts in the black market, Junho said. For enough money, I can buy legitimate syndicate cargo credentials. Use whatever you need from the credit chip, Taman told him. This is more important than money? As they prepared for the most dangerous mission of their lives, Taman found himself alone with Hannah in the ship's small cargo bay. She was running diagnostics on the crystal device, her fingers dancing over its glowing surface. Are you afraid? He asked, terrified, she admitted, but also hopeful. For the first time since I fled the syndicate, I feel like we might. Taman woke to the gentle hum of medical equipment and the soft glow of crystal formations growing along the walls. For a moment he thought he was dreaming. Then he tried to sit up and immediately regretted it as pain shot through his chest. Move, Hannah's voice said from beside him. You're still healing. He turned his head carefully and saw her sitting in a chair next to his bed. Her crystal skin was brighter than he had ever seen it, pulsing with warm golden light that seemed to fill the entire room. Where are we? He asked, his voice rough from disuse. Valoris Prime, my homeworld. She reached out and took his hand, her touch sending warmth through his injured body. The Galactic Council brought us here after they raided the Syndicate facility. Weapon completely destroyed. The shutdown codes didn't just disable it. They caused a feedback loop that melted the entire core structure. It will take the Syndicate years to build another one if they ever can. Taman felt relief wash over him. They had actually done it. Against impossible odds, they had stopped a weapon capable of destroying worlds. What about Wujin? Hannah's expression grew sad. He didn't survive the security gas. His cybernetic systems couldn't filter the toxins fast enough. Taman felt an unexpected pang of grief. Despite everything, Wujin had once been a brother in arms. The man he had become was a product of corporate corruption, but there had been good in him once. And Junho, alive and well, has been visiting every day, complaining about how boring it is, waiting for you to wake up. Hannah smiled. He also brought something for you. She gestured to a table beside the bed where the Lucky Breaks registration. Papers sat next to a credit chip. But these weren't his old papers. The ship was now registered as a joint vessel belonging to both him and Hannah. Junho used his contacts to have your ship rebuilt, Hannah explained. It's a hybrid now, combining human engineering with Valari crystal technology. He said you would need something special for the work ahead. What work? Before Hannah could answer, the door to his room opened, and a woman in Galactic Council uniform entered.
Oh.
She was human, middle-aged, with the bearing of someone accustomed to command. Admiral Soyoung, Hannah said, standing respectfully. He's awake. The Admiral approached Taman's bed with a warm smile. It's good to see you conscious again, salvage operator. You've been unconscious for 2 weeks? 2 weeks? Taman tried to sit up again, more carefully this time. Your injuries were severe. Without Miss Hannah's intervention, you wouldn't have survived. The Admiral's expression grew serious. Council owes you both a tremendous debt. The destruction of that weapon saved billions of lives. Just doing what needed to be done, Taman said, which is exactly why we have a proposition for you. Admiral Soyoung pulled up a chair. The Syndicate's weapon was just the beginning. Our intelligence indicates they have other projects in development, other ways to achieve their goals of galactic dominance. You want us to stop them? We want you to help coordinate the effort. Your unique partnership proved that different. Species can work together in ways the Syndicate never expected. You've shown that human adaptability, combined with alien wisdom, can overcome seemingly impossible odds. Taman looked at Hannah, seeing hope and determination in her crystal features. What exactly are you asking? Join the Council's new Rapid Response Division. Small teams of specialists who can move quickly to address emerging threats. You would have access to the best ships, equipment, and intelligence we can provide. And in return, you do what you've already been doing. Protect innocent lives from those who would destroy them for profit. Taman was quiet for a moment. Considering the offer, a year ago, he would have refused immediately. He had wanted nothing more than to be left alone with his salvage work. But that was before he met Hannah, before he remembered what it felt like to fight for something greater than himself. "We'll need to discuss it," he said finally. Admiral Soyoung nodded and stood up. "Take all the time you need. When you're ready to give us an answer, Miss Hannah knows how to contact me." After the Admiral left, Taemin and Hannah sat in comfortable silence for a while. Through the room's crystal windows, he could see the spires of a Valari city stretching toward a purple sky. "It's beautiful," he said. "Wait until you see the crystal gardens," Hannah replied. "Want to show you everything about my world if you're interested." "I'm interested in everything about you," Taemin said. Surprised by his own boldness, Hannah's skin brightened to a brilliant silver, and she looked down at her hands. "There's something I need to ask you about what I told you before on the ship about. Valari bonding customs?" "Yes. I know it's a lot to consider, especially for someone from a different species. If you're not ready, or if you don't feel the same way..." Taemin reached out and took her hand, stopping her words. "Hannah, I've spent the last 5 years avoiding any kind of meaningful connection with anyone. I told myself it was safer, simpler. Now I realize I was just afraid of caring about someone and losing them, like I lost my family." He squeezed her hand gently. "But watching you risk your life to save others, seeing your courage and compassion, I understand that. Some things are worth the risk." "What are you saying?" "I'm saying yes. To the bonding, to working together, to whatever comes next. You've made me remember who I want to be." Hannah's crystal skin erupted in patterns of gold and silver light, more beautiful than anything Taemin had ever seen. She reached into her robes and pulled out a small crystal ring, perfectly clear and somehow warm to the touch. "This will create a mental link between us," she explained. "We'll be able to sense each other's thoughts and emotions across any distance." "Are you sure you're ready for that level of connection?" "I've never been more sure of anything," Taemin said. Hannah slipped the ring onto his finger, and immediately he felt something shift inside his mind. It was like a door opening, revealing a space he had never known existed. Through that space, he could feel Hannah's emotions, her joy and love and relief, all mixing together in a symphony of feeling. "Can you hear my thoughts?" he asked, amazed. "Only the ones you want to share," she replied, her mental voice warm in his mind. "And only if you choose to open yourself to the connection." Taemin experimented with the link, sending her a feeling of overwhelming happiness. She laughed and sent back an image of the two of them standing together on the deck of their rebuilt ship. "So what do we tell the Admiral?" he asked aloud. "That we'll take the job," Hannah said. "But we do it our way, as partners in everything." "Everything." "Everything," she confirmed, leaning down to kiss him gently. 3 months later, the Lucky Break cruised through space toward their first official mission for the Rapid Response Division. The ship was indeed a marvel of hybrid technology. Sleek Valari crystal formations integrated seamlessly with human engineering. Tae-Min sat in the pilot's seat, feeling Hannah's presence beside him both physically and mentally. Their bond had grown stronger over time, becoming as natural as breathing. "Incoming transmission," Hannah reported from the communications station. The main screen flickered to life, showing a desperate-looking alien woman with scaled skin and large, frightened eyes. "Please, anyone who can hear this message, we need help. Corporate raiders are attacking our colony. They say we're sitting on valuable mineral deposits, and we have 3 days to evacuate or be removed by force." The transmission cut to static. Taemin and Hannah looked at each other, their shared determination flowing through their mental link. "How far to their coordinates?" Taemin asked. 18 hours at maximum speed," Hannah replied. "Then we'd better hurry," as the Lucky Break's engines flared to life. Carrying them toward their next adventure, Taemin reflected on how much his life had changed. He had started as a lonely salvage operator who wanted nothing more than to be left alone. Now he was part of something greater. A partnership that bridged species and cultures. A bond that made him stronger than he had ever been alone. Through their mental link, he felt Hannah's thoughts echo his own. They were no longer two separate beings fighting individual battles against an uncaring universe. They were one force, united in purpose, ready to face whatever challenges the galaxy might throw at them. The stars streamed past their windows as they raced toward their destiny. Together.